What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show, the home of Epic Conversations. And I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner, 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. Also, I host the only online conversation in the world for fathers and dads that is co-sponsored by Dove Men Care, also co-sponsored by Dad Central, Canada's national fatherhood organization. And as part of that team last year, reached out to over 100,000 men and fathers and dads all around the world. Like to always say, you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. We're broadcasting live April 4th. Hopefully summer will get here in Toronto. It's slowly but surely getting here. It's taking its time, so we don't push Mother Nature. You're watching or listening to Black Canada Talking, a live online event that provides Black Canadians the opportunity to give their takes and POVs on stories that are of importance to them. And also we feature Black Canadians that are doing their thing. And today we have another one of our great roundtables. So we're really excited to have the people we have today. So first up, haven't seen her for a minute. And this afternoon she emailed us and said, well, I don't know if my internet's going to work and I don't want to use up all my data, but she's here. Elle Jones is in the house. Welcome, Elle Jones.
Hey, what's up? How are you? Yeah, I got my net fixed.
Outstanding. How are you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, we're just ending the semester, but I teach in the summer, so
good.
Taking advantage of like 2 weeks.
Good for you. And everything else, the students are okay, your health's okay, etc.
Yeah, I'm training for a race, so I have a race at the end of May, the Cabot Trail Relays. So it's like a 24-hour race around Cape Breton. So.
How long?
I'm not running 24 hours. It's a
team.
It's a team of like there's 18 legs, and you know everybody's running like between 15 and 20K. So,
excellent. And want to say congratulations on your opinion piece in the Globe and Mail about real change for African Nova Scotians.
Oh yeah, that's old though.
Yeah, I'll take it. I just saw it.
It's probably making the rounds again because of the budget, but yeah.
Yes, exactly. But great to have you back, and as always, appreciate it. Next up, we have co-founder and publisher of BuyBlacks.com, Black Canada's #1 online publication, Mr. Roger Dundas.
Hey.
What's going on? How we doing?
Good afternoon, Dr. Vibe. How you doing?
Good. Are we happy to see Elle in the house?
We are very happy. Very happy. You know, the first time I saw her was on a stage, right?
What?
Dwayne Morgan, When Sisters Speak. Like, it would have been like 16 years ago. It was so long ago, I can't remember.
In 2010, probably.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
She decimated the stage, man.
I did.
The stage was I don't know what was left when she was done. I mean,
so Roger, for people who don't know you but should know you and Buy Blacks, just a little intro of yourself.
Yeah, well, I'm the one of the co-founders of BuyBlacks.com, an online magazine that tells Black Canadian stories, ranked currently #1 in Canada for Black online magazines. Well, I don't want anybody to come and show me. I said, oh no, Black TO is no. Black online magazines only. I'm also the managing director and one of the partners of a Black-owned marketing agency, so we're proud of that. We've seen revenues and staff numbers increasing, over the last couple of months. So that's very telling and very promising. In other words, once they open the doors and say, okay, we're just going to level the playing field, then they realize that Black people can do the work too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And Cesar Ndema-Moussa, how we doing, Cesar?
I'm good, Brother Vibe. Hello, Sister L. Hi, Brother Roger. How you? I'm good, thank you.
Good stuff. And Cesar, I got to hail you up for a second. I provide content for a publication called The Good Men Project. In fact, I'm going to hit up all of you. Their executive editor says that this Black Canada Talking Roundtable is incredible stuff. So kudos to all of you. Yeah, she's based in Portland. She says she loves it. She loves when I share the content from the roundtables for their publication.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, so just want to hail you all up. So I just say, hey, they're the stars. I'm just the background guy. So they drive the ship. I just steer it. So speaking about ships and slaps, 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago.
That's an awkward segue.
No, I don't know. I don't know. Well, let's put it this way. Will's ship is going out to sea while Chris's is coming into dock. Let me put it that way.
Oh my God.
There we go. So 2 weeks ago around this time was just before the Oscars started. And well, who hasn't heard about the slap around the world? And I know it's still old news, but it is not old news because it's still going on. But we'd love to get the panel's takes on the event, the post-event, everything that's gone on with it. Who would like to start first? No one wants to talk about it.
Maybe.
Go ahead, Al.
Woman, I guess. So first of all, I mean, I've never been a huge fan of the Smiths because they're like Scientology adjacent. So I think every Scientologist eventually has a public meltdown. Tom Cruise did it. Like, it's just part of the cult. So unfortunately, they were attached to it. I think that's part of the problem. But nonetheless, I have to say that white people are losing it, right? Like, whatever else we think of the slap, like the endless need for punishment of Black people that white people exhibit, like they can't just be like, that was messed up, we'll probably mess up his career, keep it pushing, right? It's like now they want his Oscar script in 10 years to not come to the ceremony and they just can't let it go. And you're like, whatever else you think as Black people, we can still acknowledge this like hyper criminalization and punishment of Black men. Like, as many people have pointed out, like, you haven't stripped Polanski's Oscar, right? There's all kinds of rapists and all other people, but you know, this Black man does this on stage to another Black man, and like white people have to lose it. So despite my own critique of the Smiths, I think we have to really recognize, again, like the complete zest for punishment that like white people always have for Black people and Black men. With that said, I want to be really critical of this like protect Black women discourse that got attached to it. Now, I understand where that's coming from. Certainly as Black women, we often feel that, you know, we're left out here alone, that we often don't get the support of community. We often don't get the support that like Black men get. But I would, as a woman, would be absolutely livid if any man in my life did that to me in so-called defense of me, and did it to me in that kind of space and did it to me in front of all those white people. Like, all of that together would absolutely mortify me. Like, that is not protecting Black women. Black women actually can protect ourselves, right? If I have something to say about my body or how I feel about something or somebody's shaming me, I'm like very capable as a Black woman of getting up and speaking for myself and defending myself. And I don't need somebody to go and engage in violence as we're watching here. And like, I know how white people going on, I could have died. You're like, but you know, the fact is that we can't keep buying into these extremely toxic narratives and then treat them like they're somehow we culture or like, for us, you know, oh, so Black women need to be protected, so the only option is for Black men to go and hit other Black men. Like, it doesn't work that way. So I want to be like really critical of that, while still, of course, acknowledging that, yes, you know, Black women's hair is a sensitive issue. You know, like, stop talking about Black women's looks, stop talking about our bodies, stop talking about our hair, stop talking about what we do with our heads. Like, let Black women live our lives and have our body and live in our beauty and like leave it alone, right? But also, like I said, I'm very concerned with this kind of narrative. And then I saw like conservative white people defending it. And I'm like, you're just defending it because you like lynching people. So you like the discourse of like, you should attack men to defend women because that's why you protect Black men to so-called defend white women, right? Like, that's the logic of lynching. So I think some of the conservative white people are like, oh yeah, he should defend his wife. That's because you're just going to go shoot somebody when like someone's allegedly on your property and claim that it's defending your house and castle. So there's just a lot of layers here. The other last thing I'll say is this is why we keep our personal business to ourselves. This is why perhaps going on YouTube and sharing all your business with the world in the name of honesty is not the way to go. And our parents and grandparents probably had the right idea when they told us to keep our business to ourselves. And like, you know, we've sort of been sold like, oh, the red table, it's so honest. They talk about their marriage. I'm like, this is what is happening when you have this going on in public and everyone talking about who they're sleeping with outside of their marriage and what kind of open marriage. I don't judge, but I also don't need to hear about it. And when you put that out into the world, then this humiliation, embarrassment, and all this stuff going on, you've brought the whole world into your marriage. And then now it's happening on the stage of the Oscars, right? Where the whole world is still up in your marriage because for whatever reason, I can't speak for Will, but there's a lot of feeling that the stuff that's been going on with their marriage being so public and her talking about her entanglement and she didn't want to marry him anyway. And she was crying in a marriage and she wished Tupac would come back from the dead so she could hit that. And like whatever's been going on, of course, when that's happening between two people, the emotions are going to be high and you can see why it would outburst at the Oscars. So I'm not blaming Jada and being like, the Black woman did it. I'm saying both of you need to keep your business to yourself. And like, maybe these things wouldn't be playing out with such high emotions and this kind of stuff happening in the moment if people kept their business to their business. So Black people, there's a reason why our grandparents taught us some of this stuff. There's a reason why you didn't get out and drag the whole world in front of yourself as a Black person, because we are never allowed the kind of dignity or forgiveness or second chances or tolerance that white people get. So we can't be out here trying to act like white people sometimes. And like, oh, white people go and talk their business to the world and there's no consequences. Yes, because they're white people. But Black people cannot speak our business to the world like this and have the world up in our business and think it's not going to backfire. And it did, because Will couldn't take it no more and went out there to, defend his wife. But he also needs to defend himself from her talking his business. And she needs to defend herself from him talking her business. And if they would both do that, maybe we wouldn't be in this position. So that's my summary. 1, white people need to calm down. It's not the worst thing that ever happened. 2, keep your business to yourself. 3, you don't protect Black women through violence. And 4, stop talking about Black women's bodies and hair and beauty anyway. That's my whole bit.
Boom! All right. Wow. We're glad you're back.
No, she can get her own back, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
She don't need you to have her back.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, right? So as a Black woman, if someone said something about my hair, I'd be on here the next day talking about them, but I don't need somebody else to do it. Let Black women speak for ourselves. Make the platforms where Black women can defend and speak and support ourselves. We don't need other people to do it. We need to be given the spaces where we can do it. And that's why you need to fund Black women, cite Black women, listen to Black women, all of that. But Black women don't get defended by other people doing it in our names. We get defended by doing it in our own names.
Good stuff.
The only time where it's suitable for a Black man to hit another man in defense of his woman is if he was attacking the woman, like physically. Then you're going in and physically defending. But I wouldn't do that either. But the only one thing I'd want to say, just to lighten it, I remember there were years ago that Will Smith was on that Academy stage, and he was saying that, and I wish I could find that clip. He was saying that basically, you know what Academy Award winners have that they don't have that he has? Money. Because he wasn't getting any awards, but he was one of the highest paid actors all this time. So it's even funny to see him in that space, in that Oscar space like that. But anyway, totally.
No, Roger, it's an important point, because Will Smith's worth is $250 million.
Yes.
Right. But there's another factor. He doesn't need it.
An Academy Award doesn't give you, more money. Viola Davis said the same thing. She thought she was going to get all these calls now that she won the Academy Award, and then she didn't.
Right. Now, the thing is, he may take a dip in his income, and there's some deals now that are on hold. But the funny thing is, as we were saying before, I was telling people, Chris Rock, notice, hasn't said a word. And there is talk that he has a deal coming up. A lot of people are approaching him, one of them being Netflix, to maybe sign a $100 million deal. But the other thing that people may not realize, Chris Rock got taken for $40 million with his divorce from his wife.
Taken?
He paid 14. No, I'm not using the word lightly, but he $40 million.
This is not Liam Neeson. He's not getting taken. Right?
No, but he has a $40 million settlement. So he needs to come up more than Will in regards to money wise. Let's put it that way, because he's still touring, and doing all that stuff. So he's being very strategic about this in regards to saying that he's going to use this to his economic advantage.
That's interesting. Interesting point that you made about being taken, because I don't really.
I used the wrong word. I correct. He had a settlement of $40 million divorce.
When man or woman, if you're married and whoever is the more successful person, there's an assumption that if that person was not in your life, you would not have been that successful. So it's really, there's no argument. When I see people getting 50% of their assets, they are due that.
Yeah. Well, I just say,
100%.
If you're gonna get married, folks, marry your equal.
No.
Be equally yoked. Be equally yoked.
You mean financially?
I'm just gonna leave it there. Cesar, go on. Oh boy! Oh boy!
No, first of all, I really applaud Sister L for, it was kind of like psychotherapy of the black couple that she gave, with respect to the ancestors. For my part, it's almost a good thing that Facebook blocked me for a month because I'm telling you, I have a lot to say, a lot needs to come out. First and foremost, allow me to start by saying something that I've been saying for years. Entertainment is the number one cancer of the black psyche. And when saying that, in the context of Will Smith, Jada, and Chris Rock, um, personally, on one side, it's easy to look at it as this is just a matter of three individuals. In reality, because of racism, because of marginalization, because of the fact that all three of us black men on the screen will be taken for the next George Floyd at any moment, it impacts all of us in the same sense that Sister L. Jones having a head full of hair is also targeted, addressed as a Jada without hair. That's unfortunately the reality of the world we live in. But in saying that, Will Smith made a career, the first part of his career was made at cracking jokes at a certain Carlton Banks. And I've always said it, the black community needs more Carlton Banks than more Will Smith. We all like Fresh Prince, but if we are honest, as we get older, as we look at the state of our communities, and I'm not saying Carlton Banks was perfect, either on the show or later on trying to create drama because he has a white wife, but the reality is that the black community needs more Carlton Banks than more Will Smith. As I've said that, allow me to give the point of view of my spouse in relation to the incident. My wife is a big Will Smith fan. She has been for years. She bought his book. She wanted me to read it. I said, out of question. I'm not a fan of it. I'm a fan of no one. I'm not going to read his book. It doesn't interest me. This big time fan of Will Smith was so disappointed, not just because he went to hit Chris Rock and notably on live TV in front of millions, aka in front of millions of whites, but as she put it, he didn't defend his wife. That was his ego. Because as our camera angle showed it, he laughed at the joke. He just reacted when he saw the reaction of Jada. And then he went to hit a brother and then very foul-mouthed, talking about not ushering his wife's name, whatever, out of his mouth, completely destroying the image of Will Smith over so many years, aka the rapper who doesn't cuss, aka the present father, no matter how everybody thinks his kids are weird, boy and girl. I have to say, we are among black people. We know what our people say about Will Smith kids. They're weird, aka the parents must be really weird. Keeping his cool, keeping his marriage, despite everybody knowing Jada is secretly in love with Tupac, who is still dead. He's not coming back, but she's keeping his memory more alive than my first love, my first girlfriend, and everything. And for me, what I find really tragic, and I'm really not trying to fall into the way Kareem Abdul-Jabbar painted it, aka look at the shame of the black community, kind of like, oh, sorry, white people, we misbehave. We show the thuggish side, the violent side. Racists are racist. They look for any excuse, and you know what? They don't need an excuse to be racist. That's their problem. However, as a Pan-Africanist, as a black person, not even a black man, as a black person, black in body and mind, what I find so sad is that you have basically three people that I can say we grew up with. Jada, I remember Jada from a teenager being in France, translating not Boys in the Hood, Menace to Society, in which she was in, translating that because it was only in English to everyone. That's how many of us got introduced to Jada, just as others getting introduced to Fresh Prince. Chris Rock CB4, one of my favorite, funniest black movies. So we grew up with these people, in the African context, but truly black context. They're like family members. They literally can come sit at the dinner table, or we have a relative who makes us think of one or the other. I find it very sad to see such display by three black people who are not only celebrities, but also rich and famous. And considering how our community, especially our children, as much as we would like to say actors and athletes are not supposed to be role models, we cannot deny that our children and our youth look up to them in terms of their behavior. We don't often hear black kids saying, I want to be the next astronaut or I want to be the next Elon Musk. You ask them, and I do this in the schools, I do this in conferences. They're always talking about the LeBron James or Kobe or the Will Smith and whoever else, Denzel. So I find this, to me, all three of them failed. Chris Rock failed less. He's a comedian. He made a joke. That's his job. If he hurts you, talk to him backstage. Jada, I don't know. I don't like to put the part of like, I know I'm back on Facebook at the end of the week, so I'm letting you know. I'm gonna be talking about Wick Smith and Jezebel Pinkett-Smith because that's really what it seems like. But at the same time, she is not guilty. Will is guilty of being in love with a woman who loves another man, and that woman is guilty of always bringing him down. I mean, when she finally talked, she said, "I didn't send him to do that. He overreacted." Like, oh my God, you making this guy like. And I agree 100% with Sister L. 10-year sentence for a slap for which the victim did not even press charges. Again, this is cosmetic. This is, the savage black people, the thuggish, the, apes have overreacted. I mean, wasn't there a certain white comedian, I forget his name. I mean, I don't even watch the Oscars. I'm trying to sound like I really know all of this. But because of white comedians going overboard, and yet there was no reaction. To me, I just find it very sad because, unfortunately, as I've asked many black people since then, I've asked them, can you please give me the name of at least 3 Jewish athletes or Chinese entertainers that you know right away that you could see act like that? We have to be honest with ourselves, black people. What Will Smith did to Chris Rock is a white version of Bill Clinton hearing a joke about Hillary Clinton and him going on stage to slap Bill Gates or Warren Buffett. It becomes a problem when our elites are entertainers and on top of that will act like that. Of course, respect to Tyler Perry and Denzel Washington, we went to make sure everybody are okay. Respect to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Respect to Muhammad Ali. Respect to Colin Kaepernick. But the truth and the reality is this. Is that kind of buffoonery of black entertainers that will be made sure in the racist world that we live in, on the 4 corners of the world, look at how those black people act. Look at, I personally find it very sad, very sad. Very sad as a whole. It reminds me, if I give you a French version, a few years ago, 2022, maybe 2018, there was a situation in France that was talked about a long time in the media. The top 2 rappers of France, Booba and Caris, got recorded fighting at the airport in a perfume store, hitting each other with bottles of perfume. And these are the top 2 rappers of France. How old do you think they are? They're my age. These guys are in their early 40s. Yeah, I find it really sad, honestly.
Okay.
Like,
All
it's
right.
funny, it's sad, but
Yeah, sorry, I'm glad you brought up the jokes because I was going to say also Fresh Prince made millions of jokes about dark-skinned black women. Let's not forget that Will gets rid of the real Aunt Viv.
Yep.
Very famous episode about, where she takes out the contacts and the weave and it's making fun of all the false stuff black people women have on our heads, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, Will spent years making fun of dark-skinned, short-haired, bald.
He got rich of that. He got rich of the thousand of mama jokes. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's also sort of like, I noticed no one's really bringing that up when they're like, well, Chris Rock made this over-the-line terrible joke about Jada's hair. And I'm like, but how many jokes has Will made about black women's hair? himself.
All right. Anything else you want to add before we move on? Go ahead, Roger.
Yeah, the one thing I'm sensitive about it, Cesar. So, well, forgive me. I'm asking you to forgive me up front. But as I was listening to your discourse, the one thing I was listening about is the comparison between the behavior of the actor being compared to the behavior of a white businessman, right? So I think sometimes we need to be fair with ourselves, right? Will Smith slap was not the worst thing, in my opinion. I actually didn't even pay attention. I heard about it the next time. I'm like, whatever. Because when I think about people like Charlie Sheen,
Yes.
you want me to? Because I have a lot of names. I could keep on going, but I'll just start with him. Or somebody like Tom Cruise, who jump in the coach and all that craziness. Well, to Elle's point, the relationship to Scientology, right? There's a whole list, and of course my guy from House of Cards. What is his name? Kevin
Costner. Spacey.
He hasn't been able to resurface since then.
That's true.
He went south. I love it. He's brilliant. The brilliant actor, but problems. So what I'm trying to say is that they have more problems than we have. And this, what Elle, I think, was saying is that they blew it out of proportion. You slap a guy in his face, and then it's, oh my God, 10 years ban, this, that, oh, he should be banished and never, come on. I mean, I'm not agreeing with it. Definitely, I do not agree with it. I don't condone violence anytime, unless violence is brought to you, defending yourself. But it's not the worst.
I agree with you 100%, brother. It's not the worst, and you gave very good example. Whether we talk about the Kevin Spacey, Harvey Weinstein, and Roman Polanski, those names are always come up. The problem, and kind of as even Dr. Vibe also identifies, when it comes to our community, it's not exclusive to our community, but we are part of it on the four corners of the world.
Yeah. We're sensitive to it.
The symbolism part. The symbolism part in regard to our elites. That's why I compared it to Bill Clinton and Warren Buffett, because quite unfortunately, when we talk to our youth, who you want to be when you grow up, who you look up to, many of them, the notion of elites in terms of who they want to be, who they keep being bombarded with, are entertainers. They are, and when entertainers act like that, the problem is not that they are entertainers. A community without entertainers has a serious problem. I don't want to live in a world without Black entertainers, but our entertainers should never be our elites in terms of our youth looking up to them as role models. That becomes a problem.
It's funny because Will Smith is a name I would normally use in an analogy, right? And people often ask me why I used to produce theater. So I used to produce theater and dance and all that. And they said, why weren't you interested in acting? I said, what's funny about this business entertainment is that Will Smith gets, and this is what I used to say to people, Will Smith gets at the time 20 million a movie, right? But who's paying Will Smith? You never know that person's name. So Will Smith cannot go into the cinema, the grocery store, but the guy who has more money than him has the freedom to do whatever they want. So this is the thing. When you come back to the whole symbolism thing, truthfully, I just Googled the Nigerian billionaire. I was trying to remember his name.
Aliko Dangote.
Thank you. Right? Nobody's that name is not on the lips of the average Black person around the world. They're looking at what's his basketball?
LeBron.
All right. Acting. They're talking about Jamie Foxx. They're still talking about P. Diddy, Rihanna, blah, blah, blah. But there are people who have more money than those people who are quiet. Yeah. So when you compare Oprah would never do that. So that a better comparison with Bill Clinton would have been like Oprah. Oprah wouldn't do that. She's not slapping anybody. She don't care. She don't care what you say about Stedman. That's okay. I have my billion in the bank.
Exactly.
You can say what you want to say. I don't care.
All right.
Right. So, and you're right. I don't think that I'm not a big celebrity follower. I'm not even on social media, as you know. So I'm not into that symbolism world, as Dr. Vibe likes to point out. The symbolism is just it's killing our community.
Yep.
Cesar. I agree with you. It's killing our this focus on celebrities is killing our community.
Anything else to add before we move on? I think you guys knocked it out of the park as usual. And again, folks, I did not want the word taken, misspoke. Misspoke.
Yes.
Because I don't know anything about the relationship. But
yeah, I'm sensitive about it. I'm sensitive.
Yeah, so no. So just say that he is $40 million in debt because of his divorce. So you put it that way. He's 14 million.
Earned it.
Huh?
She earned it. She's not taking it. She earned it.
So
That's
my apologies. So, so I'm waiting for the Facebook responses and YouTube responses on that. But I did put it out to clarification. Let's get to something closer to home. Last week, 2 articles written by a gentleman at the Globe and Mail, white gentleman. The name of the articles were Canada's 6 banks almost came together to help Black entrepreneurs, but then they went their separate ways. And then the other article, fewer than 1% of the applications to Ottawa's Black Entrepreneurship Loan Fund approved in the first year. Cesar, thank you for bringing that to my attention, that article. Who wants to talk about both those interesting facts? Or articles, or the topics behind those articles? Who wants to start?
I will skip it because I will bring it into talking about the budget.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, I was hoping you'd go first. So
I was hoping, Cesar, that you would go first to decimate it.
I'd have to talk about the federal budget.
Well,
go ahead. Let's roll them into one then.
Okay.
Yeah.
For me, it's it's how the intersectionality of politics, economics, and identity. If we don't have strong communities, we basically get taken for granted, to be given crumbs, and kind of be slapped. I mean, we have to be honest here. Great interest that comes in terms of banks coming to help to uplift the Black community, etc., etc. But the community comes up looking disorganized, not united, not strong. Are we even buying Black? We always talk about how the Black dollar is the dollar that leaves its community the fastest compared to other communities. And yes, I very purposefully always use Jewish and Chinese examples because we don't need to go far to see the difference of treatment in terms of power relations that come into this country in regards to different communities. This that happened in terms of these big banks, and also in terms of how many organizations that less than 1%, it's very symbolic of a reality in which we live in, where, as I say about Black people here in Canada, in the United States, Brazil, Caribbean, Africa, and the world, we are not poor. We just mismanage our wealth because we don't tend to come together to unify and to be strong. Others notice it, and as such, they get to treat us with disrespect. They look at even the federal budget, and this is how I was going to tie it in. Should we applaud because of what? 85 million for initiatives that talk about inclusivity, 50 million in terms of anti-racism. Indigenous communities getting how much again? 11 billion. Of course, colonization, different realities. But at the end of the day, if we really want to build our communities, it has to start with us in terms of identity and coming together. Because those banks, they were like, how can I put it? It's kind of like we were talking about. It's like, it's not even like something that's given in terms of injustices and to uplift you. Those were loans, those were grants, those were to be reimbursed with an interest rate. So personally, I'm not surprised. I almost want to think it's a good thing that it failed, because it's going to force us to activate ourselves to uplift our own. If other people are the ones who uplift us, and yes, this is what has happened to other communities, such as the Jewish community, they didn't just uplift themselves. They got helped by governments in Europe, governments here, Canada, the USA. But we have to do work in terms of our own communities to uplift our own.
All right.
Yeah, I think, and part of, just to expand on that, part of the problem that we have, and every community has it, but it obviously matters more when you're a small and relatively powerless community, is our problem has always been that our, like, white people always appoint our so-called leadership. And there's a disconnect between the mass of the community and then who's appointed as our leadership and what their agenda is. And I've said this before, right? And that's not to denigrate any like particular group, but the reality is we have a very, like, we're a small community to start with. And then the way power works in this country, is I'm sure in every country, but I've seen it up close in this country, is people aren't being consulted necessarily because of like their merit or what they know. It's all who knows this person. It's a very in-group cliquish thing that's happening at very high levels of power. So who's being selected to consult on things is because they happen to be the friend of this person who's friends with the minister. So we're not even necessarily getting a broad range of voices. How you get to the table or how you're allowed to present is often just if someone likes you or doesn't like you, and has nothing to do with your ability to actually comprehend and speak about policy or knowledge of things, what work you've done. And then we end up with a very small incestuous group of people that repeatedly become the people that are consulted with and have their own agenda often, which is often about lining their own pockets and that of their friends or whatever. And sometimes it's also they have other things too. Sometimes, yes, they also do want initiatives of the Black community. But the problem is that we're dealing with what, as Cesar said, like, in the scheme of things, a very small amount of money that's being doled out essentially on this like very like niche basis. Like, the same groups keep getting funding. If you actually follow these things, the same groups keep getting asked to the table. The same groups keep being consulted with. And then we get a consolidation that like the only thing we want to give money to in this country is like entrepreneurship. Where's our housing loans? Where's that? Like, there's a little bit of money they're giving to education, largely concentrated in Ontario. Where's the money going into like community programs so we can get away from prisons? Where's the money going into like anything? Like, and you could see this coming. I said this on the show last time I was here, right? That when they held the Black Caucus held consultations on the budget, they only included business groups. So then are we surprised that pretty much all the funding is concentrated around business entrepreneurship, which is fine, but there's other areas. We're not seeing huge funding into education that we need. We're not seeing funding into even like recreational structures in Black communities. We're not seeing funding into justice alternatives. We're not seeing funding into our seniors. We're not seeing funding into housing, which is being left to be done on this like quasi like private basis by like intermediary organizations that aren't democratically chosen. So this is all the problem, is we essentially have a fiefdom building in the Black community, which may have made sense 50 years ago. But given that we have tons of young educated people, tons of people that are, involved in all fields, we need to find a way to democratically consult on what we want. And we need to stop this like behind closed doors, only if this person likes you, only if you're in the in crowd, because it has a detrimental effect on what we're actually able to get, because we're not actually mobilizing like this huge base of Black people together. We're mobilizing a small sliver of people, and we're always going to see, and it happens in every community. It's not unique to us, but it's just that we're a smaller community. And because white people refuse to educate themselves about Black people and treat the way that they just cannot understand that Black people have different viewpoints. They cannot understand that Black people cross the political spectrum. They cannot understand that we're not a monolith. Like, white people just do not understand these things. So they think that you can talk to like one Black person and then that's every Black person. And it's like, no, you actually have to talk to lots of Black people because we're different. We're all across the spectrum. Like, I'm really far left. There's like really conservative people, right? I'm not going to advocate the same things that person is. And I shouldn't be at the table for them and they shouldn't be at the table for me. Like, so yeah, I mean, the budget is like, we mostly saw maintenance of the things that have already been chosen. And then, as Cesar said, like very, very small and negligible investments into most other things that don't really touch the roots of inequality. And then these very confusing financial programs, right? Like, where you're getting loans from like multiple sources and God knows how you're going to pay things back. And like, what happens if you default, if you have a loan with like 3 different organizations? Like, not much clarity, as people have been saying. Like when we have these programs, you don't have clarity on the interest rates, and you don't have clarity on like who you're repaying, and you don't have clarity on even what sources this money is supposed to be from. And like, yeah, the lending institutions don't even want to go into this weird mix of like private and public funding. Like, it's a hot mess. And it's going to set people up for failure because you're going to be paying loans back at like multiple sources and different schedules at different percentage rates. And like, yeah, are you losing your home then if like you default to one? Like, it's really dangerous, right? These aren't grants, they're loans, and they're very precarious sounding loans that aren't really clear. But all kinds of people are applying for them and like staking their future on them. And I'm very worried about what happens when that stuff starts defaulting for people, because we know that Black people don't have the stretch money to like cover, if we're still in a pandemic, like there's a wave happening again now, like cases are like re-upping. So this could be going on for a while and business is going to be collapsing. And like, what happens now? You have all these loans to repay, right? Like, so I just think it's a dangerous program. It goes back to, like, as Cesar was saying too, like we are not democratically organized as a Black community, like, and we need to be so, and we're just not. So this is why these things keep happening.
Roger?
Yeah, there's a lot of things going on. I did take a look at the highlights of the budget. Home buying help, affordable housing, dental care, defense and security, environment, indigenous reconciliation, and of course the diversity and inclusion, which I thought was paltry. 50 million, but hey, that's what they're doing. My challenge and with the current administration is that I believe, there's good in every party, right? No party is totally evil. Well, let me just say that, right? There's good in every party. In the Liberal Party, I believe that they're on a spending spree, and I don't know that if the Conservatives or the NDP was here during the pandemic, if they would have done it any differently. To stop the economy from collapsing entirely, I think the government had to give people money, right? So I'm just going to say that up front. But even prior to the pandemic, we were running a deficit. And I'm an accountant first, right? That's my training. And I believe that you should really balance out that budget and not put the money on our future children to pay it back. That's my belief. So who is here now? Pay for it, right? And we a little bit more conservative with the spending. But I do believe that the Liberals have the right idea about the people that they're trying to help, right? Maybe they're not putting the right amount of money and effort, although I do believe, Cesar, that the commitment to the indigenous peoples of Canada is a start. It's a start to try and correct an atrocity that has happened to them. And I'm not just talking about residential schools. I'm talking about the whole thing. Residential schools was just the Band-Aid coming off and exposing this bad sore that was underneath. There's much more to it. So that's the first thing. So the budget and the spending, I don't know how we're going to pay for it. Just from a straight economics, Black or white. We don't know how we're going to pay for it, but we're going down this road. Free dental care. The other thing that I noticed too, just quickly, there are a lot of things that are slated to be implemented in 2025. Who to tell if the Liberals are going to still be in power in 2025? So you got to change our government, and they may just say, we're going to kibosh this because this doesn't make sense, and we don't know how we're going to pay for it. So we have to watch out for that too. I was looking, even the article that we ran by Blacks about the daycare. The daycare is going to get implemented in 2025, fully implemented. So let's take a pause there. Even the affordable housing policies and everything that they're trying to implement, 2025, they're going to start it now, right? To maintain, in my opinion, the Black vote.
Well, it's politics, economics, and identity, because the Liberal NDP agreement,
Yes.
not a coalition, but agreement, is basically for 3 years to 2025, aka pretty much mandatory elections. And you come to 2025, who are the communities or identities most marginalized in these countries? Indigenous and Blacks. And you have other minorities, such as now suddenly hundreds of millions that are going for a new wave of refugees, aka
Ukraine,
white refugees,
Yep.
Ukrainians, aka White Lives Matter. You see, what are they going to vote for? They're not going to be voting for conservative. The
No.
people who are helping them, they're not going to vote for conservative. It's basically going to be, don't get me wrong, I am not here blaming the Liberals. It's politics.
Yes.
It's politics or politics, whichever way you want to look at it. It's savvy. The question is for us, because as Sister Elle was saying it, if you are a Black business, we know how the black family money gets tied so tightly with the hope of a successful business. When you make that loan from one of those banks, whether it's through this black initiative or not, when it comes time to reimburse it, are you going to put yourself further in debt? Or have you made profit so that you can reimburse properly and be making gains? This is not to say that all black businesses are bound to fail. Absolutely not.
No.
We have success stories that we have to champion, we have to develop. I give you a very concrete example. Yesterday, this brother who runs a suit store, I'm going to give him some publicity, Vivati in Gloucester Mall in Ottawa. 2-3 years ago, when I first met him, he didn't have suits my size. Now he does. So instead of buying my black suit, this black suit that I want from the States, expensive suit, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna help a brother. I'm gonna help a brother local and everything you want. But at the same time, let's be honest. His store is full. How many black people does he really have who come to shop from him? I usually buy my suits from Europe or from the US. For the first time, I'm actually going to buy a suit from a black man right here in Ottawa because I want to show some support. But this is the type of mentality in terms of economics and identity that we have to do so that in terms of politics, it reflects on us. That's what the Jewish and Chinese people do. I always give that example. A black person will cross the city to go to a non-black owned restaurant and share the photo of what he ate on social media and talk about it to the family. A Jewish or Chinese person will cross the city to go support the brother or sister of the community, even if they don't get along in politics or maybe religion. I am purposefully exaggerating. I am purposefully amalgamating because I'm sure it's not the case for each and every people. But when we look at the fact that black communities are said to be poor, I dare to reply, black communities as black nations are not poor. They're mismanaged. And they're mismanaged first and foremost. Why? Because we let everything and anything separate us instead of valuing our identity to support each and one another. This is what Pan-Africanism is.
Okay. Just wanted, there's a question here from Sarah Yango. So what do you all, go ahead, El.
I was just going to say, yeah, Ryan brought that up when he was on here, that when they were arranging those loans, they had tried to sort of advocate for something like a black mutual aid society or black fund or whatever, that the money would actually be concentrated to create like a black financial institution. They didn't do that, right? So this is why I think a lot of us are just kind of curious about how this is even going to work out, because the same interest rates, the same problems are still at the financial institutions, which all have a racist and colonial history. I mean, Scotiabank was the first bank in the Caribbean, right? And has a long history of exploitation in the Caribbean. Royal Bank is heavily invested in like mining and gas and like the tar sands, and, you know, is invested in all kinds of like anti-black stuff as well. We know what happened in 27, 28, where they were, you know, crashed the world by giving out bad mortgages and then betting against their own bad mortgages, right? So these banks like have bankrupted us before. They have, you know, made us homeless before, and they don't get held accountable in any kind of way, criminally or otherwise. And so it's very unclear, as I said, like, how does just having a loan with this bank or with a black organization that's leveraged against the bank, or the black organization that's leveraged against the bank and the government, like, I don't understand this. And like, at least it should have been no interest loans, and the government should have been covering like the interest.
Banksters, they're banksters.
Yeah.
So but
I really understand finances like this. I'm sure you understand more than I do, but just when you read the thing, it sounds complicated all the time. There's so many middlemen. As I said, there's no way to hold the bank accountable. And we know the bank will ruthlessly bankrupt a ton of black businesses, take your home while you're at it, and then leave you out on the street. So what protection is there? And like,
there's no protection. There's no
black
protection.
bank. We need something. If we're having all these programs, they should be administered from some kind of black financial institution with like vetted actual accountants and people that know how to deal with the money, which we have in our community. Go ahead, Roger. I know you're going to say something.
You know what? I don't think the problem is the system. The system is the banking system, right? And how they do it. But then the second problem is, okay, so you get the loan, right? you have to, and Chris is asking a good question. Can a business become more successful without a bank loan?
Yes.
The truth is that one of the fastest ways to grow your business is other people's money, OPM, right? So what you have to do is get more fiscally astute, right, and responsible with the money. Because as Ed said on Friday, the banks are in the business of selling money. They're trying to make a profit from you. They're not taking any risk. So you can't really go to them and say, "Oh, well, I'm not so qualified, but I want some money."
Roger, Roger, I was hosting a conversation with Ryan on Friday morning, and I don't know if it was Ryan or myself or someone on the call said for a loan because they needed to pay their rent.
No, that doesn't work. You know what I've been. Here's my personal philosophy. My personal philosophy right now, where I am in my life right now. So there's 4 things I invest in, right? Food business, clothing business, right? Shelter business, homes, and gas/electric. Those are the 4 things that people want. Have to have. Food, clothing, shelter, and a means of transportation. So all this entertainment and stuff, it's nice and fluffy, and art program. It's nice to see an art installation on the street done by a black person, but how many people is it really serving? So that's what I'm saying. So I think part of the problem, guys, is that we're not really investing in businesses that can bring you money into perpetuity, right?
long term, sustainable.
Right. So I wrote down a few. So I'll tell you a few that I think, right? Education, business, because it's a business. Yeah. Imparting knowledge into minds. Why don't we have some HBCUs here in Canada? We don't. We don't have any. Not one. Can you name one? Anyone? Anybody? Any HBCU in Canada? No. So there's a problem right there. We should have universities that are geared towards educating black minds. Spelman, Morehouse in the States. There's a ton of them down there, right?
Yeah, but be careful. A lot of them are funded by white money.
That's fine, but they still educate black minds. And the black minds move ahead and are very successful in their careers, right? Then you have defense. I mean, we could argue all the while that, war is bad and all of that, but it's a multi-trillion-dollar business. Why are we not in the defense business? Why are black businesses in Canada? I'm talking about Canada. I'm not even talking about outside of Canada, because obviously there's black defense business in Africa. There's black defense businesses in the Caribbean, but I don't know of any that's servicing the Canadian defense industry here in Canada. I don't know of it. And to be honest with you, they would keep it low key.
Go ahead, Cesar.
Brother Roger, I have a bad news for you when you talk about black defense budgets in Africa. Would you think train and give them money? America,
okay. We're gonna come back to that.
England, Russia, China.
We're gonna come back to that.
African Union is 72% funded by the European Union.
Yes.
Wow.
The special units of African nations are trained by either the American army, the French army. Now you have the Russians and the Chinese.
Yeah.
Like, if you really yeah.
So
like Brother Vibe said.
Point. You just furthered the point, right? So there's also infrastructure, roads, highways, buildings, airports. How many black-owned businesses are building airports? Food business. How many businesses run farming, massive farming that are black-owned? We have some in Alberta, I believe. We have a few smaller ones in Ontario that I know of, but not on the scale of a Conagra or that massive that can feed an entire country, right? The other business. Three more before I finish. Manufacturing, so making stuff, stereo equipment, TVs, blah blah blah, right? Auto, making cars, black-owned. I'm talking black-owned businesses. All these businesses I'm mentioning, and then the final one, of course, is my favorite, CPG, consumer packaged goods. So the cheese tricks and the this and the that, all these different products that you eat every day. There's not a lot of black businesses that are focused on that. Instead, to Cesar's point, we follow, and to Dr. Vi's point, we follow this symbolism thing of wanting to be in front of the camera. So we want to be a rapper, a this, a singer, a dancer, an actor. That stuff is not making money to perpetuity. It's a one-person thing. It's not a community thing. That I can say, I can buy into this business that is going to be making food that's selling to the US and Canada. That's what we need in this community. So when you talk, coming back to the loans, we need loans to develop those types of businesses that can make an impact for generations to come.
Brother Roger, allow me to give you,
Thank you.
let you know how right you are. No. This is very critical. It's good to talk about, Black history. We were kings, and it's great to talk about how Michael Jackson, Michael Jordan, and Mike Tyson. We Black and proud and beautiful. But let's speak in terms of the reality of the world. Let me tell you how much it hurts me when I go to high school. When I've gone to high schools to give conferences, and I would submit our youth from 12 to 18 high school ages, ask them a simple question. In a minute, name as many entertainers as you can. My God, the names fly. When I ask them to name the richest Black person in the world, I am telling you, it is Chinese and especially Arab students who knew the name of Aliko Dangote. In all the schools in Ottawa, there was only one Black youth who knew of his name. Only one. And yet, at the same time, when we talk about this, the black dollar exists. When you look at the US in terms of the power of the black dollar, it's often talked about that it reaches up to $2 trillion, and that Black America by itself could be a top 10, maybe 9 or 10 in terms of economic power. But the fact of our mind being so easily divided on anything and everything, from politics and religion to colorism and what basketball team you prefer. Let's be real. These are real conversations because these are the type of things that drive some people to support others. And I give you a last example. How can we explain and justify to ourselves? This is actually tragic. And it's like, don't fall for the surface of what I'm saying. Let's go deeper. Understand how tragic this is. Steven Spielberg, a Jewish man, rich, famous, whatever you want, successful. He made the movie Amistad in terms of, slavery, Black community. What did the Black community, notably the entertainers of Hollywood, did with it? And now we have billionaires. We have from the Tyler Perry to the Jay-Z, and now lately Rihanna, but also Oprah. They don't even have a Black Hollywood where they control everything from production to distribution. As such, we have Black movies that cannot be released. Steven Spielberg also made another movie called The Schindler's List.
Yeah.
Look at everything that came from the Schindler's List in the Jewish community. Everything they created, from museums, from employment, from basically research and documentation and etc. And I remember this because this morning I read about the little girl in the red coat in that movie, who is now an activist for the whatever. She's helping the Ukrainian refugees in Poland. This is the difference. We have Black billionaires who, even as we talk about entertainment, they can turn entertainment into a strength. 100 years ago, in the 1920s, Jewish people only had 3 avenues: stay in the community and notably spend their time studying the Torah all day and every day. This is where you notably get the Hasidic people. Or try to succeed in terms of intellectualism. This is where you get the Albert Einstein and Sigmund Freud. Or they were shining in entertainment, but they turned the money, the receipts of the entertainment, to turn it into a political force. That's why in the 1920s, you go to the 50s and 60s, in the fight against communism in the United States, Jewish artists were greatly targeted because they were considered to be too liberal and to be enemies of the state. their entertainment, they turn it into something of strength, a weapon. Why can't we do that? What's stopping us? And I'm not here just talking about, Jim Brown, Muhammad Ali, Karim Abdul-Jabbar holding a press conference to say we're black and we're strong. I'm talking about today. And we can just look at Colin Kaepernick or LeBron James making a tweet in between two games. I'm talking about something concrete, something solid. This is a problem. And I don't like to make it seem always negative, but no,
it's not negative, brother. It's not negative. It's a call to arms. It's a call to say to everyone.
I do have to get going, y'all. I have to.
Yeah.
All right.
Sister L, thank you so much. Thank you,
Al. Take care. No problem.
Take care.
Everybody, take care.
Right.
Take care.
We're gonna continue the conversation a little bit more here because Sarah Youngo has a question. So, what do you all think about those folks the major banks have appointed to deal with Black customers? How can the Black community hold banks accountable for their anti-Black racism, boycotts, public shaming in the media? What are your thoughts?
No, you know what? I have a personal experience with that. I'm not sure if I shared it before. That so we bank with TD Bank. I want to call them out now. And what had happened is that they had offered us a product. Well, actually, that's not what happened. What happened is that we wanted to increase the limit on our credit card to, and I call the number 15,000 because we wanted to accommodate purchasing like media and all that using the credit card. So the person at the bank says, "Oh, well, you know that you're qualified for either a line of credit for, I believe, 17, I think, or a loan of 18,000." So I said, "Well, hold on a second. I don't want those two products because I don't want to borrow any money. I just want the facility of the credit card to pay for things and then I'll pay it back, right?" They're like, "Well, you can't get that. You can't get the $10,000 increase." That's what I wanted. I wanted a $10,000 increase. 17,000 they were offering me, willing to offer me the loan. So I said, "Well, okay, let me get some information. So what's the payment, the loan?" They said, "Well, the loan would be, 6.something%. I said, "I don't want that." I said, "What's the interest rate on the line of credit?" They say, prime plus whatever. I can't remember the exact number. Plus there's a fee to keep it. So I said, "No, I don't want that." So it got escalated to the manager. The manager brought in a regional manager.
Wow.
The regional manager for small business. At this point, I'm still talking with non-Black people, right? The regional manager for small business, it was clear that he had an attitude and he was not even hearing me. He was like, "You know what? It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen." So I reached out to somebody in the bank who's Black, very, very high up in the bank. And I said, "I have this problem." And he said, "Oh, well, we started this Black Experience group." I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah. So I'm going to connect you with somebody." The long and short of it is that he connected me with this person from the Black Experience group. And within 3 weeks, I had what I wanted. Because I'm saying it didn't make sense. Let's look at it again. They want to offer me 8,000 above credit facility that I want. Let's just break it down.
Yeah.
They're saying it's two separate teams. That's fine. That's an internal thing. I said, work it out internally and satisfy your customer. That's what the Black Experience Group did. So I gotta say kudos to TD Bank for recognizing a problem that they're having within their bank and putting in a solution to it to help Black customers. I don't know if similar programs exist in other banks. The other 5 banks across Canada, the major banks. But I know that solution, I'm telling you, it was a very good experience working with people who understood the culture and understood how to talk to us. I have to say that, Sarah. So Sarah, to that question, it does work. It absolutely works.
Okay. Says that Tyler Perry is showing the way, built his own studio, sound stages, controls distribution, hires Blacks as much as possible, along with Oprah and others, has donated millions to HBCUs.
It's like Prince too, right, Ed? So Prince, what I love about what Prince did, that you didn't know about it.
That's right.
Until he died.
Prince and pudding.
Right? So this is why I feel, a lot of people They're like, oh, I'm going to give 10 beds to this hospital and they have 20 cameras there. You know, I'm a publicist. Okay, I get it. You're trying to, show that you're doing something, but there are people that are quietly doing things.
Well, as one of my elders says, don't tell people what you do. Just do it and let them talk.
Just do it. Prince actually went to the point of letting people sign a non-disclosure. They couldn't talk about it.
Yeah.
They couldn't talk about the money that he's helping them. And he said, you just don't tell anybody. I'm going to help you, but you can't tell anybody.
Smart.
Very smart.
Other question. Here's a question by Christopher, and we won't keep you much longer, General. Christopher has a question. Without a bank loan, how can a business generate funds, especially if it has its own startup capital? Roger, you're the accountant.
So can you repeat that? How can a business?
Without a bank loan, how can a business generate funds, especially if it has its own startup capital?
How can a business generate funds, especially if it has its own? So the person has their own money. Is that a question?
It's not 100% clear to me. Without how can a business generate funds, especially if it has its own startup capital? Well, if you have your own startup capital and you're not going to get a bank loan, you got to sell your products and services. Maybe I'm making it to
invest in your community. The way I'm understanding it is your strength, so that you don't rely on a bank. You don't become hands attached to a bank. Is rely on your community for people to support you. But don't just have a business in order to say I have a business. Those your business responds to needs that are here right now and ongoing, so that you basically can create an ongoing a cycle of customers.
Sustainable,
sustainability. Exactly. You need to be sustainable so that basically you can make a profit, but the profit can greatly exceed your expenses that you have to spend, so that you don't fall into debt and therefore you go running to go attach yourself to a bank loan.
I turned to Roger this because Roger has, I think, the most expertise.
You know what? I gotta say, I know this a very successful lawyer, black lawyer, and he has 3 offices in the GTA, and he said, Roger, I borrowed the money to set up these offices. And he said if he didn't do that, he wouldn't have grown that fast, right? But the thing is, all right, so what he did, and I had a very long conversation with him because I consider him, because he's so successful, I consider him like a mentor, right? So he said that, okay, so when you're going to do this, you have to figure out what are you going to spend that money on? So for every dollar that you borrow, you're going to have to pay back 6-8%. That means that for every dollar that you borrow, you need to be making at least 12%. Understand?
There you go.
So your budgeting has to be dead on. So you need to know, okay, all right, in his case, he's a lawyer. So he's going to start a new firm in Ajax. He's going to hire 4 lawyers. He's going to pay each of them. I'm just going to use some easy numbers, 100,000 each. He has to pay back this loan for $1 million. 5 lawyers a year, 500,000. That means his revenue, and I'm assuming, rent and everything.
Yeah.
Let's assume everything's 1.5 million. He needs to make like 2 million.
That's right.
So he's gunning, rather than getting down in the trenches. He's saying, okay, let me go find that 2 million.
Yep.
So that it can cover it, pay back the loan, and service the loan, and keep this business going. So a lot of people don't think like that. They just think, oh, well, I'm going to borrow the money to pay the rent. No, you can't do that.
You got to make money.
You got to borrow this money to grow the business.
Exactly.
Right? It's like when you get a grant. Even if you get a grant, you're supposed to be getting a grant to grow the business. You're getting that free money. You have to figure out, okay, when I spend this dollar I spend that's free is going to actually make me 5 in the future.
Yes.
It can't be just to spend it in this year and then next year I don't know where the money's going to come from. That's crazy thinking.
Yeah. And this is what I mean when I talk about the mismanagement and the matter of identity. If I give a simple example, it's actually a tragic example in social work about how in the US right now you have thousands of young black men in jail. Why? Because they don't pay for child support. And yet, how is it that they get caught and they get easily to be sent in jail? Yes, we can talk about the racist system of justice and all that, but the problem is this: a lot of these guys who don't pay for child support, claiming they don't have money, what do they have on the shoes?
Easy.
They have the latest Nikes, the latest Jordans. It's the same as so many people. I drive a Cadillac. Okay, fancy luxury car, but I often tell people, all my cars, I bought them by myself in one payment because I could. Most people will drive luxury car. They don't own the car. It's the bank that own them, and they get in debt. So when last week I was in a conversation with my friends, and I told them, don't look at me to complain about the high price of gas. If you're going to complain about the high price of gas, don't drive a luxury car.
That's
But
right.
if you drive a car that you're
agree.
leasing and you like, it's that type of mentality in terms of management. It's like, it's kind of like, you debt, you profit, you want a loan. Are you making sure that you want to take a loan, but you're going to be sure that you can reimburse it because you're going to make X amount of profits? You're going to properly, you have to manage it so tightly
Yes.
that you don't have a hole to sink your ship. Too many
You
of
have to
our
prioritize
people
it.
Yeah.
You have to prioritize it. You have to prioritize. I find so what's happening with coming back to the Global Mail article, what it highlighted the 1%. Okay, so 1% of people were successful. The problem is that they didn't qualify. And that was what they were talking about on Dr. Vibe show on Friday.
Yeah.
So a lot of people didn't qualify. But I think what had happened is that the way out everything was rolled out, it was kind of backwards. I think the ecosystem should have come first, is what Ryan was saying. The ecosystem should have come first to build up the businesses, to show them, hey, this is how you budget. You need to bring your, here's an accountant. Let's bring your finances, your financial statements up to date. Let's help you with your marketing. Let's help you with your infrastructure. Let's help you with your legal agreements. Let's build all of that first. Let's help you with your personal finances.
Then
Let's help to improve your credit score. Let's help to refinance some of your debts, so to improve your. All of that should have been done ahead of time, but instead they came up with the loan first, and then the people applied, and then they didn't qualify. Remember, a lot of these people were already applying to banks, and banks were telling them no. Sometimes the banks were racist. I agree. Like in my case, I feel like it was just a discrimination thing, but in other cases, they really didn't qualify.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We can't always be pointing the finger.
So I don't know. I don't know. I haven't seen all the loan applications. I don't know how much of them were true, disqualify or not, right? But the fact of the matter is that I feel like there's a lot of businesses, and it's let's just call it what it is. It's a lack of education, not education of people, and education in certain systems. Understand? So they don't know what's impacting their credit score. You need to go and find out what's impacting your credit score and fix that before you start applying for the loan, right? You need to have a proper business plan in place. There are people for that to help you with it. Yeah. Even and again, I'm a chartered accountant. That's fine. I still hire people. I hire experts that can help me. You can't do it yourself. And that's the other thing. A lot of people are like, well, I don't want to pay. I'm just going to build this little website on Wix. No. No, that's not the way. Hire experts. Figure it out. I know what people are going to say. But Roger, I don't have the money. But what are you doing with the money that you have?
Yeah, well, I think just the little I'm going to add is that if you're trying to do it all on your own, stop now.
No,
save your stress, save your money, save your relationships. Stop now. And anyone who's going to start, every dollar you make, you should be thinking, how am I going to reinvest this in my business?
Yeah.
And I just gonna say that's it.
My online mentor, he says that 10% of the money he makes goes back into marketing.
Yeah.
10%.
Yeah. You should be thinking with the money you make, who can I hire or what do I need to do to grow my business? Not, I'm going to go out and buy this, or I'm going to go out and buy this and go out for dinner. Save your money. Save your money.
It's a symbolism thing. We talk about it all the while. This need to. I'm okay. We need to. We feel better about ourselves when we look good. Like Cesar, he's fresh to death, right now. I'm saying, but he didn't break the bank to do it.
No.
I can see that. He didn't break the bank, but it looks good. And that's the thing. I think some people, they're like, oh, well, I have to wear Gucci and I have to wear Yves Saint Laurent and I have to have a Coach bag and a Michael Kors and
You have to wear brands that don't like black people. Only black people do that.
The last thing I'll say, there was this thing. It used to happen. I don't know if it's still happening. I hope to God it's not happening anymore because it was the most ridiculous thing I'd ever heard. It was called eclipsing. Have you ever heard that term before, Cesar?
I have.
Eclipsing.
No, brother, haven't.
Okay, it's where a group of black, and it was predominantly women that were doing it. They would go to a space that was not typically, let's say, inviting of black people. So not a black-owned space. And they would swarm it, right? So they would go there. So 50 of them would agree, 20 to 50 people would agree to go to X place, which is not black-owned. Go there and spend money.
Begging of acceptance and love at places where they don't want you, instead of having your own place where you people come in.
Why don't we just eclipse some black-owned restaurants doing Buy Black's Restaurant Week? Sorry, I have to plug it.
Of course, right? You guys. I was gonna
plug it. That's what Sarah is saying. That I'm pushing the Buy Black, buying black. Why don't we?
No, of course.
Do that a little bit more intentional with our clothing, with food, clothing, shelter, and gas. We don't want no gas station.
Management and mindsets.
Yeah,
we got to shut it down. Unfortunately, Cesar, we'll have to get your next. Where we go there's a description. Buy Black's Black Restaurant Week. So we're gonna have to shut it down. Unfortunately, Cesar. I know there's another topic. We'll have to save it for the next time. Unfortunately, but I have because I do think that it'll still be applicable when we talk next 2 weeks time. So we'll just hold it off there. So, gentlemen. And El, another incredible conversation. We only got through really two or three topics, which I thought, but that's a good thing.
It was loaded.
It was fully loaded. So, Roger, thanks again for taking the time. How can people get in contact with you?
You know what? You can find me on LinkedIn, please. I love LinkedIn. That's the only social media platform I'm still on personally, and on Pinterest. I'm on Pinterest as well, but that's more my interest in gardening and DIY stuff and home organization. But I'm on LinkedIn, please. Roger Dundas.
Yes, and definitely go to buyblacks.com. Black Canada's #1 online site, and upcoming Black Restaurant Week. Get on it, especially black. If there are any black restaurants out there, be a part of it.
So we have 20. Today is April the 10th.
Yes.
We have 20 restaurants committed already. 20.
There you go.
That's more than the last time.
Absolutely.
We're still a month. We're still a month out. Over a month out.
Wonderful. Cesar, closing words, and how can people get in touch with you? I think Cesar is frozen.
He's gone.
Yeah, we lost him. Okay, well, maybe he'll come back. If he doesn't, Cesar, well, he says he's blocked on Facebook till the end of the week, but that's probably the best place to get him home. It's like they love him. They love him. They love to block him.
Yeah, they blocked our Buy Black's Facebook as well too. So we haven't been able to update it in weeks now. So just if anybody's looking on our site, we're still in business.
Yes, we're all still in business. All right. Well, it's Dr. Vibe. I'm host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations 2020. Well, I said that at the beginning. So let's just go. Thank you for watching. Follow the Dr. Vibe show on Facebook and YouTube, and you'll get notified when we're going with our next live conversations. We have actually tomorrow morning on the Morning Vibe on the Dr. Vibe show, we have the lady who is suing Face is coming on. And then Thursday at 9 a.m., we're going to be speaking with the gentleman who wrote the Globe and Mail articles. So that's 2 reasons why you should follow the Dr. Vibe show on YouTube and Facebook, and hundreds of other conversations. As always, end off with this. And also thanks to Sarah, Christopher, and others who watch live on the replay. It's appreciated, not taken for granted. And again, my apologies for staying take. All right. Settlement, $40 million settlement. Chris Rock made with his wife. Let's make that clear. Done. Close out now. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions, then aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. Remember to give yourselves grace. And also, thanks to BIA Media. And also, remember, don't just manage your time, manage your energy. God bless. Peace well. Keep the faith. Happy Easter. Probably a replay next week, but follow and find out. Bye, everybody.